People really do not want state putting their fingers on their lives.
Coming up, Reason TV travels to Brazil for a look at how a group of libertarian activists helped bring down a president.
It definitely says great things about Brazilian democracy.
Why is libertarianism catching on so fast in Brazil?
And that is how you win over undecided voters right there.
More than understand our ideas, people have to like our ideas.
If they want to be cool, they don't need to be on the left. They can be in our group.
Now this is kind of my life.
Can these young activists help defeat the big government populism, stifling the economy of Latin America's most populous nation?
This is the worst recession we've had in recorded history.
It's like an office wannabe, but we are not like serious guys, so it's not technically an office.
In this cavernous production studio, a group of mostly 20-somethings work through the night, often sleeping by their desks. They're making videos, uploading content to social media, and strategizing.
We're a group of friends, and things do not work well if the guys who are entering our team don't become a friend of us.
This is the headquarters of the Free Brazil movement. It's the centerpiece of the country's growing libertarian movement, and the group has already helped bring about a remarkable turn of events. The Free Brazil movement has been a driving force behind the ongoing impeachment of Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff, who in May was forced to step down. A left-wing populist, Rousseff was impeached for fiscal impropriety.
It definitely says great things about Brazilian democracy. We always had politicians just running free and doing whatever they wanted with public money. So this is a very, very big deal.
But the impeachment effort probably would have fizzled if the Free Brazil movement hadn't helped organize a succession of demonstrations that involved millions of anti-Rousseff protesters. The anger of the Brazilian people with their government was cast in explicitly libertarian terms.
In Brazil, all the people are libertarian in many ways. Like, people really do not want state putting their fingers on their lives. When you start to explain those things, people, oh yeah, the government's way too big. Yeah, this is the real problem.
Vocês querem esperar? Vocês querem sonhar com aquilo?
To keep the pressure on for removing Rousseff from office, members of the Free Brazil movement led a 33-day march from Sao Paulo to the federal capital of Brasilia. It was a 750-mile trek, which they did while carrying an impeachment bill to deliver to Congress. After arriving in Brasilia, they sat down with congressional leaders to make their case.
Pedimos para estarem irmanados conosco, não apenas o pedido de impeachment, mas nas pautas das ruas, porque esse é um momento realmente histórico, um momento em
We are going to defeat the socialists in Brazil the way that they hate most, by democracy.
Brazil is now in the second year of recession, and this is the worst recession we've had in recorded history.
The Brazilian economy has been contracting over the last couple years, and the unemployment rate recently climbed above 11%. On the 2016 Index of Economic Freedom, which categorizes countries based on the level of government interference in the private economy, Brazil ranked 122nd. Starting a new business in Brazil takes about 14 times as long as it does in the United States, according to the World Bank. Here's the big mystery in Brazil and in much of Latin America. How is it that so many citizens continue to believe that government can solve their country's problems, despite so much lived experience to the contrary? The theory behind the libertarian movement in Brazil is that most people derive their politics not from reasoning, but from culture. So the way to change public policy is to create a new cultural identity that's all about freedom.
If you want to be cool, you have to be from the left. If you are not from the left, you are a guy who don't like gays, you don't like poor people, you don't like black people. what is the Brazil movement. Brazil movement is other way young guy or a young girl go. They don't need to be on the left group now. They can be in our group.
To promote this new libertarian cultural identity, the Free Brazil movement functions in part as an alternative media outlet with its more than 1.3 million Facebook followers.
The media in Brazil receives lots of money from the government, and we had to create a sort of parallel media. In terms of Facebook, we're stronger than any politician in Brazil, and we have more views, more reach than any media group.
Maconho socialista, dia 5 de outubro, vote no Batista, raio privatizador.
As a video production shop, the Free Brazil movement scored one of its biggest hits in 2014 with the joke advertisement for Paulo Batista, a long-shot candidate for the Sao Paulo state legislature.
This is a politician flying with a tie and spreading the libertarian message using a beam that comes from his eyes that turns bad public services into good private services.
It drew a front-page story in the New York Times and was featured on The John Oliver Show.
Perhaps my favourite candidate this year is this guy, Paulo Bautista, who seems to be running on a platform of having laser vision that can transform the country and who ends the ad by flying through space for 20 solid seconds. We have not edited this. This is genuinely how his campaign ad ends. And that is how you win over undecided voters right there.
The video was aimed not at promoting Batista's candidacy, but at rebranding the concept of privatization.
Privatizing, that was a word that the left made a disaster in terms of public policies. It became something that people, it's nice. Because people were starting to use as a meme, like, oh, I had a girlfriend who's not looking pretty nice in this picture, so she receives the privatizing bean and she becomes hot. We have footage from our demonstrations where like thousands of people are screaming in the middle of avenues, we should privatize those public companies now!
Critics of the Free Brazil movement say that its message has mostly caught on with the middle class in Sao Paulo and the South, making less traction in Brazil's far poorer northern states.
Brazil is a very, very poor country. So to be fiscally conservative, you have to convince, and this is the hard part, you have to convince people that being fiscally conservative means, in the medium to longer term, having more money to spend in education and health.
A primeira razão para pedir o impeachment da Dilma é o preço da gasolina.
Enter 20-year-old Kim Kataguri, the grandson of Japanese immigrants, a part-time law student in Sao Paulo, and the Free Brazil movement's biggest star. One of his specialties is communicating how free market reforms benefit the poor.
Just observe what the left has already done. They've created the perfect formula. More than understand our ideas, people had to like our ideas. So I think that's the great secret. We have like 205 million people in Brazil. I mean, you will never make 205 million people understand any idea in a profound way. Education, for an example. We don't explain that the voucher system is more efficient and it has worked in other countries and the private companies can take a better care of the schools. We just ask, so do you want the poor people to study in the same school as the rich people? I mean, it really looks like a leftist speech, but we're defending voucher system. Selling to the people ideals of not only liberty, but also of equality, and showing that equality is not only a value of the leftists, but we also can do it.
On a Thursday evening, a group of college students meet up at a bar in a residential neighborhood of Sao Paulo. They're members of Students for Liberty, an international organization that brings together libertarians on campus. It has a presence in 107 countries, including the US. But based on the count of local coordinators who've signed up with the group, the Brazilian chapter is bigger than Students for Liberty in every other country combined.
Everybody can see that government is not working for us as it should. I was thinking if there's any option, and I discovered that that is. And now this is kind of my life.
Bom, eu virei libertária através de textos liberais, a princípio era mais conservadora, e conheci Mises, Hayek, conheci Walter Block e me identifiquei com a ideologia deles e passei a pesquisar mais a fundo e me encontrei no libertarianismo.
The reason Students for Liberty has seen exponential growth in Brazil, in contrast to other countries, is something of a mystery. Mariana Leon points to the collapse of socialism in the region, particularly in Venezuela.
So I think that this is the secret, is when everybody starts to realize that we can go from here to somewhere worse.
It may also be that the Brazilian branch of Students for Liberty has particularly good organizational tactics. Coordinator Rony Stefanato Rodriguez recruits new members by spending about 2 hours a day listening in as strangers discuss the latest news on Facebook. When he finds someone making libertarian-sounding arguments, he reaches out.
It's like a headhunter. They are in the way to be a libertarian, and I always say, hey, I have this book, do you want to read?
The libertarian movement in Brazil would never have gotten off the ground if it weren't for a handful of think tanks that started laying the groundwork many years ago. One major player is Mises Brazil, which occupies a shared office in this building in downtown Sao Paulo, and is unaffiliated with the US-based think tank with the same name. The chief of operations is 24-year-old Gianluca Lorenzon.
The question that I asked myself was, why we talk about freedom in our songs, in our lyrics, in our poetry all the time, but simply this doesn't reflect on politics? And the reason is because we didn't have content.
Mises Brazil publishes daily articles on libertarian issues and gets about 1 million page views per month. It's also both commissioned and brought back into print Portuguese translations of the major works of Austrian economics. Mises Brazil was founded in 2007 by investment banker Ilio Batrao. He says the intellectual climate in Brazil has undergone a profound shift.
They would look at me like Elias read something that made him crazy. And I think that changed over the last 10 years, or maybe less. And now they only think I'm radical.
Now that libertarian activists have helped push Dilma Rousseff out of office, where does that leave the country? Rousseff was replaced by her vice president, Michel Temer, a former congressman who's been in politics for nearly 30 years. Temer has been implicated in Brazil's ongoing corruption scandals.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most corrupt, I would say he's a 6.
Though libertarians have little faith in Temer the person, they say the impeachment has created political incentives that are leading him to make some positive changes.
What Temer is betting his government on is to bring about much needed economic reforms to get unemployment down, and he's counting on this to happen in like 6 or 8 months so he can stay in office.
The politicians have interest in maximize their time in office, and if we turn libertarian ideas politically profitable, then in either way we're gonna win. And I think it's good not to have this populist figure of the person who brought us freedom. Who will bring freedom to the people is the ideas themselves.
The impeachment is just the start of the game, and we should put the pressure over him, kick all those corrupt guys who are there and they are still there, and pressure him to make the good economical and the good democratic reforms that we need to change our political system.
I don't see any way of changing policy besides getting involved in politics.
There's also a movement afoot to elect actual libertarians to political office. 31-year-old economist Fabio Osterman has been an important behind-the-scenes figure in libertarian circles, and now he's running for mayor of Puerto Alegre, a southern city with a population of about 1.5 million.
I think Brazilian libertarians are getting ready to take this next step.
Osterman has led a takeover of Brazil's Social Libre Party, which is planning to put forward many more libertarian political candidates in the near future.
We're a party that defends both gay marriage, decriminalization of marijuana, and also, of course, free markets, free trade, deregulation of the economy, privatizations, and we know that we will be displeasing a lot of people by defending these ideas, but we feel like it's the right thing to do. We're not yet a libertarian country. We're actually very far from that, unfortunately. But this is a very special moment for libertarians in Brazil because we're showing up as an option, as an alternative.
People really do not want state putting their fingers in their lives.
Coming up, Reason TV travels to Brazil for a look at how a group of libertarian activists help bring down a president.
It definitely says great things about Brazilian democracy.
It's like an office wannabe, but we are not like serious guys, so it's not technically an office.
In this cavernous production studio, a group of mostly 20-somethings work through the night, often sleeping by their desks. They're making videos, uploading content to social media. Activists help defeat the big government populism, stifling the economy of Latin America's most populous nation.
This is the worst recession we've had in recorded history.
Why is libertarianism catching on so fast in Brazil?
And that is how you win over undecided voters right there.
More than understand our ideas, people have to like our ideas.
If they want to be cool, they don't need to be on the left. They can be in our group.
Now this is kind of my life.
Can these young men strategizing?
We're a group of friends, and things do not work well if the guys who are entering our team don't become a friend of us.
This is the headquarters of the Free Brazil movement. It's the centerpiece of the country's growing libertarian movement, and the group has already helped bring about a remarkable turn of events.